Hello everyone and welcome back to Academicscope. Today we're covering topic 2.6 production in GCSE economics. This is what the specification requires you to know. You must be able to explain the role of producers, including individuals, firms and the government. Evaluate the importance of production and productivity for the economy. Calculate and explain total cost, average cost, total revenue, average revenue, profit and loss. Evaluate the importance of cost, revenue, profit and loss for producers, including how cost and revenue affect profit and supply. And you must be able to explain what is meant by economies of scale. These are the definitions the specification requires you to know. Profit is the amount of money a producer has left after all costs have been paid. Productivity is one measure of the degree of efficiency in the use of factors of production in the production process. It's measured in terms of output per unit input, and you can see the formula below. Total output divided by total input. You must understand this. Producers seek profit motive in a market economy. They supply goods and services to consumers, including the government, and that's their role. Economies of scale. They are the cost advantages a firm can gain by increasing the scale of production, leading to a fall in average cost. And you must be able to understand the difference between internal and external economies of scale. Internal economies of scale come about as a result of the growth of the firm. However, external economies of scale are benefits the firm gains from being a member of an industry or specific location. These are factors outside of the firm's control. Now, these are some calculations that you could be asked. While most of these are pretty basic, they are guaranteed to come up in at least one 2 marker, and you don't want to lose very free marks on mathematical questions. Average cost is the cost of producing 1 unit. It can be calculated by total cost divided by output. Total cost is all the cost of a firm added together. You add fixed costs and variable costs. Total revenue is the total income of a firm from sales, calculated by quantity sold times price. Average revenue is the revenue per unit sold. You do total revenue divided by total output. Loss is when a firm's revenue is less than its cost. Profit is when a firm's revenue is more than its cost. Fixed costs do not change with the level of production. For example, rent. Whether you produce 1 million products in a month or 0, your rent will be the same. However, variable costs alter with the amount of activity a firm undertakes. For example, the raw material or packaging ordered for each product. Now this is a 6 marker you could be asked. Evaluate the importance of production for the UK economy. I have given a model answer, but you must keep in mind, you cannot write like this in the exam. I have simply demonstrated how the chain of reasoning will work. In an exam, you get marks for clear and fluent English, and you must write in full sentences. You must also write it fluently. The point 1 which I have made, an increase in production leads to increased employment. Therefore, demand for labour will increase and be inelastic because they want to make this more production. This will lead to higher wages. Therefore, consumers will have higher disposable income. Aggregate demand will shift right. Thus, derived demand for labour will increase again. Firms will then invest in training employees to increase productivity at the same time. This solves a long-term structural problem in the UK of low-skilled employees. You can evaluate this statement by saying, however, firms may increase production by increasing productivity by investing in capital such as robots or even letting go of workers, which will actually increase unemployment and decrease aggregate demand. The second point you can make is increased production leads to increased economies of scale, which we have just established is the cost advantages of firm gains by increased production, which leads to lower average cost. Therefore, when the firms expand, they can sell at lower prices. Thus, they are more internationally competitive and can export more. Thus, the balance of payments in the UK economy is better. The evaluation for this, which I have come up with, is other countries may retaliate. If they have a competitive advantage, GDP in that sector for the UK could decrease. And remember, in an evaluate question, you must add a final judgment. I want you to come up with this on your own. It does not matter whether you say it's important or not important, just that you back it up. I have listed a template just below. Now, evaluating the importance of productivity for the UK economy. While seemingly similar, it has a few small differences. Point 1 which I have made. Increased productivity leads to increased output, which can lead to increased employment and increased tax revenue. This decreases the budget deficit as the government can use this increased tax revenue to pay off national debt. Evaluation for this. Firms may increase productivity by investing in capital or letting go of workers, which will increase unemployment and decrease tax revenue. The government will have to give out more benefits and decrease their tax revenue, so they won't be able to pay off their budget deficit. Second point I've made for this is similar to production. Increased productivity can increase production, leading to increased economies of scale, selling at lower prices and more international competitiveness, leading to a better balance of payments. However, other countries may retaliate, leading to GDP in that sector to decrease. Once again, I want you to try and come up with the judgment yourself. Remember, you cannot get full marks without adding a judgment, so make sure to not just leave it to the very last second and take a few minutes to do it. Now, you have to evaluate the importance of cost, revenue, profit and loss, but instead of doing it for the UK economy, you have to do it for producers. On the screen are the importance of each of these factors, and we'll look at the evaluation after, as it's similar for all of them. Cost is important for producers, as decreasing costs can increase profit, which leads to lower interest rates on loans. If total cost exceeds revenue, it results in a loss, which producers don't want. If cost of production falls, then a firm can supply more at every price. Increased profits mean firms can reinvest and expand, leading to economies of scale, and as we've seen in the chain of reasoning, that can lead to many benefits for a firm. Revenue. Revenue is important because without enough inflow of money from sales, a producer can't earn a profit and remain in business. And remember, in the previous video on competition, we covered one of the main reasons a producer enters a market is to make a profit. Growth in revenue can encourage investors to invest more money, and it allows the firms to secure low interest loans. Now, profit and loss. Profit is very important in a market economy because it signals to scarce resources to move to that firm. It's an important source of finance for a business and can attract investors. Loss can result in a firm closing, but in the short term it's not that bad if it's used to purchase high quality capital or used to invest. Now, evaluation for all of these are very similar, but it depends on the style of the question and the case study you're given, so make sure not to just use this template for any question you're given, and use the case study and get application marks. Some evaluation points which you could use. Firms might be more focused on decreasing costs or increasing revenue, depending on the question once again. Firms might not want maximum profit, as they've just entered the market and want to gain market share. They might have a steady source of finance or investment, so might not care about low interest loans. They might have a very long-term perspective, especially if they're focused on R&D, or if they're backed by government subsidies. Thank you for watching Academic Scope, and I hope you come next time to watch the next topic. Check the link in the bio to join a Discord with a community of like-minded students, where we share revision advice, you can ask any queries with older and younger students, and we go through past papers and live. Thank you for watching.